Hello all and welcome to Wild Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are making the beautiful Live Antics project, and today's project will be a cowl. Very exciting. Now, what is a Live Antics project, I hear you ask? Well, if you didn't know this, we have lives at 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoons and 10 a.m. Saturday mornings, Melbourne, Australia time. And what happens in these lives? This is a new thing. This is our very first live antic project. Not our first live, because we've done lives non-stop for a long time now, about 4 or 5 years. Now, what happens in those live antics is only on Saturdays. This happens, by the way, on the Saturday morning live. You as a subscriber gets to decide what colour combination my Live Antics project will be. Now, the very first person to do this Live Antics I chose was Gina Henderson. Now, Gina has chosen, I put down 4 colours, and Gina has chosen all 4 colours just to give me grief. But it's good grief, because look what we have made, Gina, between the pair of us. And what happens is I choose the stitch, and at the time I said, right, I've chosen a double crochet. Here are the 4 colours. Which colours would you like to see? And Gina chose the 4. So we are working on this gorgeous cowl. Now, Gina didn't know what we were working on. Nobody knew what we were working on. I just told them we're doing a double crochet stitch. This whole piece has been made just using the double crochet stitch, and obviously chains and, you know, turning around and the rest of it. And we used 2 things to keep our cowl looking simply divine. We used crocheting on the base row in the 3rd loop, or back bump if you will, and that's kept our work looking exactly the same on the bottom as it does on the top. How gorgeous does that base row look? Also, we used a single crochet and then another single crochet on top of that single crochet at the beginning of each row, not only causing your work to be nice and straight, but also stopping a massive gap you see in the middle or just between the 2 stitches of your work. All right, so these are the little tricks of the trade that you learn as you go along with your crochet journey. Now, if you are new to crochet, this is not that difficult. The only difficult thing, I will admit, is weaving in those ghastly ends. They are tricky, guys. Just bear with me on that one. They are tricky. All right. What will you need for your project? You will need some yarn. Now, I used a Spot Saver yarn. This is not the colour I used. This is the colour I used just to sew the button on. So I used a Spot Saver USA style yarn. Altogether, I used 150 grams worth. Okay. Now, each colour has its own amount. Obviously, I used more of the light blue. I used quite a bit on the pink as well. The yellow and the dark blue, I used very minimal amounts. Rough amounts for each colour would be, I'm going to give you some rough amounts because mine is actually made at little bits shorter. When I say shorter, it's smaller than yours. I got you to cast on 90 stitches. I didn't cast on 90, okay? So mine's a rough amount that you will need, and you will need probably 58 grams of your light blue, roughly 58 to 65 kind of grams of the light blue. You'll need about 35 to 40 of the dark blue, which is not much really. You will need 46 to say 50 of the pink, and you will need about 28 to say 35 even of your yellow. Even less, because you probably won't need a lot. Now, if you were to make that in one colour, you would need altogether 150 to 800 grams. I don't think so. 150 to 180 grams. So you probably wouldn't need, maybe not even that much, depending on whether you do cast on your 90 chains. Now, I think 90 chains is an appropriate size for this yarn and the 5mm hook, which we are going to use today. The yarn itself does call for a, what does it call for? I think it does call for a 5. Yes, it does call for the 5mm hook, but we are going to use that 5mm hook today. You will need a pair of scissors. You will need a sewing needle, which yours truly ended up using 2 different types, and I messed up, but doesn't matter. So one that works with the eye of your button and one that works with weaving in your ends as well. So I used the thinner one to weave in the ends and the thicker one to crochet the eye on the button, and I never should have done that because it didn't work. I should have used a thinner one for the button, but anyway, you will need a couple of stitch markers. Now, you will also need a button. The button I used here, it's a 1-inch plain button, yeah, but if you have one that's that little tiny bit smaller, use that as well. We didn't make a buttonhole because I just put it through the stitches itself. That's why probably best to grab a button that's a bit smaller. I struggled to get that button on, to do it up. I'm not taking it undone. I'm not going to take it undone. All right, so if you've got one that's a tiny little bit smaller than 1 inch, you can use the 1 inch, but once that button's up, it's going to be really hard to get undone. It's really tight. Look how tight that is. But that's all right. It's okay, because I usually, when I make cowls, I usually do the button, close it up, and then just pop it over the head. I never take it undone. A bit lazy like that. All right, so that's that. That's that. You know that the lovely Gina helped us choose the colour combination. I chose the stitch. That's all you need to know, guys. Let's get on with making our gorgeous Live Antics cowl. Good luck all. Alrighty guys, before we start, I just wanted to let you know if you wanted to change your colour combination, you can start by doing that now. Otherwise, we are going to start by chaining up some chains with the light blue. Okay, starting with the slip knot. Grab the tail end, wrap it around your finger once and twice, holding it there and holding it down there. Pass your back loop halfway over your finger, hold it there. Pass the other loop all the way over, pop your hook in and give it a tug. All right. Now for the more advanced crocheters, you can head off and do a chain of 90. If you are new to crochet, we're going to show you how to do a chain. Pass your yarn over the hook and pull it through to the loop that you're in. Yes? Well, that's actually on your hook. That's the chain 1. You're going to do it again. Yarn over your hook, pull it through to the loop that you are in. 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Now you can hold the hook whichever way you like. I hold mine like a knife. Okay? So just keep going. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. All right, so chain up to your 90 and I will meet everyone back here once you're done. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of our row. Now what we're going to do is put double crochets in every stitch across. Now normally we would go into these loops you see right here. Okay, this is for the newbies, by the way. For everybody else who knows how to do this, just be patient a moment. We're going to go into these little back bumps that you see instead. All right, so let's just pretend, well, we're not pretending, we really are at the end of the row. We're not pretending, we're real. Yarn over our hook. We're going to start with a double crochet. Now let's get a close up here. We are going to put our double crochets in all these stitches, but first we have to skip our first 4 chains. Okay, normally it's 3, but in this case it's 4 because we're going to pop them in the back bump and it's further over. Our stitch is more there and the back bump is sort of at the bottom of the stitch, so it kind of moves it up a little bit, which makes it too short. All right, so don't worry about that, it's just a bit of math. So let's say you are skipping 1 chain, 2 chains and 3 chains, and in your 4th chain turn it over and there's a little bump right there. You're going to pop your hook in that bump. First stitch is a bit awkward, but just pop it in that back bump right there. Pull a loop through. 1, 2, 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through the last 2. Now ordinarily I would get you don't have to do this part here though. You do need a stitch marker if you're new to crochet. Ordinarily, I would get you to pop your stitch marker in that stitch there. We're not going to pop it in that stitch because when we come back around, you're going to be 1 stitch short. You need to pop it in that little chain. Actually, I find this chain really tight. But it's the chain right next to the stitch. There's your stitch and there's your chain. 2 loops on top, 1 on the bottom. I'm going to struggle with that stitch later. All right. But you do need a stitch marker there, okay? So in the meantime, you are going to pop a double crochet in every back bump you come to. So yarn over your hook. Your very next back bump is right there. Once you do 2 or even 3, the rest is easy for you. It's automatically turned towards you. So it's actually helping you find the back bump. See right there. In the back bump. All right, so what I'm going to get you to do is just continue along your stitches, doing your back bump. I'm going to pop this on fast for you so that we can get to the end of this row, and I will meet you there in a moment. Just get to your second last back bump and I'll meet you there in a moment. Alrighty guys, how did you go? I'm struggling. The back bump, not my thing. But it is a good look, and I'll show you in a minute what I mean by a good look. Let's just turn this next second last stitch right there, and then I'll do a nice close-up for the rest. And, you know, all the way through this piece I've been splitting my yarn. Let's move my yarn out the way. Let's go like that. Alright, so when we do this last stitch, we're not going to complete it because we need to change to our navy blue. However, I just want to show you where it is. It's that little bump right there. All right. So before you do anything, grab your navy blue, yes, or whatever color you're using. Let's start our stitch. So yarn over your hook, pop it in that little back bump right there. All right, pull a loop through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, hold it there, grabbing your navy blue, okay, and just grab the navy blue, pop your loop over the hook, or loop it if you will, and pull it through to the 2 loops you are in, just grabbing the tail end of your navy blue and all of your light blue in your hand at the back of whichever hand you're using, right or left. Chain 1, turn your work like so. All right, we are now going to do a very interesting stitch that will help you keep your edges nice and straight. You pop your hook in the same stitch that you are in, right? Just the hook right into that stitch, those 2 loops on top, and the space is a stitch, so pop your hook in, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. That is a single crochet. But from here, your single crochet has the 2 loops there. You're going to pop your hook in the bottom side loop. Pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, grab your second stitch marker and pop it through the top 2 loops of that stitch that you just created. All right, so what it's done, it's kind of a little bit full and packed and it looks a little bit odd, but when your work is complete, it leaves that gorgeous straight edge and you don't get any gaps. All right, so what I want you to do is do a double crochet across. Now where you're putting your double crochets, if you're not sure and you're new, just give your stitch a tug and you'll see it creating the gap, the space. That is the space you are putting your stitch in. You've got your 2 loops on top and your post, this is called a post, down the bottom. All right, so you've got your yarn over your hook, pop it in that stitch, so you've got your 2 loops on top, pull a loop through, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 left, yarn over, pull through another 2, and yes, you guessed it, you are doing that in every stitch all the way across your piece. Way too exciting, yeah. Now your piece will be a lot bigger than mine. At this stage, I'm only doing the small piece to show you the stitches because naughty me didn't record it as I was doing the larger piece. Halfway through, I start recording on the larger piece and you see it. But the first 3 rows I didn't, so I'm very naughty. First 3 rows, I think up to the 4th, something like that. Anyway, never mind. Shh, let's just keep going. Double crochets all the way across your row, all the way until you get to your stitch marker. I won't pop this on fast because I'm almost there, but you guys may need to pause the video now. Okay. Oops, here we go. We've got a couple of stitches left. One, let's just stop that and bring a nice close up. All right, where you should be is roughly around here. You've got your stitch marker here and a stitch just before it, the last double crochet if you will. And then you've got your chain 3 here. All right, remember we did our stitch in chain 4, so you've got chain 3s hanging off here. This is so tight, I'm going to struggle. So I want you to pop your double crochet in your nice loose stitch in there like so. Oh, it's not too bad. Pull the loop through. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over, pull through 2. Guess what? Hold it there because we are changing into our blue again. All right. Oh, this is way too close. Sorry, guys. All right. So there's your 2 loops. Yes. Grab your light blue. Pull that loop through like so. Remember what we did before? We held on to all the threads in the back except the one we're using. Yeah. We chained 1 and then we turned our work. Now you can turn your work whichever way you like, that way or the other way, it doesn't matter. Just remain consistent throughout your piece, okay? Now from here you are going to do the same thing we did before in the beginning of the row. Pop your hook in your stitch, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Now remember those 2 loops from before? You are going to pop your hook into the bottom side loop. Not the top one, or you're going to unravel what you just did, but the bottom one. Okay, pop your hook in, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Popping a stitch marker in that stitch, the top 2 stitches of your work. All right, and there you go. Now guys, guess what you're doing? Exactly what you did before. Double crochet in every stitch. It's a bit tricky, the blue to see, but you know what you're doing. In that stitch there, double crochet in every stitch across your row. I'm not going to let you sit here and watch me do this because you've done this already. All right, plus my yarn is all tangled, but don't tell them that. So head off on your own, do your blues all the way across, get to the stitch marker right here, and I shall meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of this row. Okay, we're going to pop our stitch in the second last stitch right there. Yes. And then once again you're going to pop a double crochet in the top of that stitch that we made from before. So pop your hook in that stitch, pull a loop through. You can take that stitch marker out if it annoys you too much while you're doing this. Yeah. Now remember, before we complete it, let's do the yarn over and pull through the first 2. Hold it there because we are going to change to our pink. All right. Now this is our very next set. We've done 1 set for our cowl. Okay. Grabbing your pink, popping it over your hook, pulling it through the 2 loops, and once again you're going to hold your light blue and your pink tail in your back of your hands there, and then chain 1, turn your work, and once again you're going to put a single crochet in the light blue and then a side single crochet in that stitch, and guess what? Pop the stitch marker right there. And just keep going, double crochets all the way across the row. Now before you finish this row, When you get to, let me pop this on fast for you and we'll get to the end of this row together and then we'll talk, all right? So finish this row and we'll pop it on fast and off we go. All right, we're almost there. Here we go. We've got one double crochet there. Now I've pulled my thread a little bit here, but don't worry about it. In that stitch there, we're going to do the double crochet and then we're going to change to the yellow at the same time. So start your double crochet in the stitch of your stitch marker. And if it helps to take your stitch marker out, then do so. Okay, stitch markers are there to help the newbies if you're new to crochet. Pull your loop through like normal, yarn over, pull through 2, hold it there, grabbing your yellow. So you're grabbing your yellow, pull your loop through like so as normal, chain 1, turn your work and do that fancy single crochet, 1 and then 1 on the side stitch like so. Pull up your loop, grab your stitch marker and get ready for some instructions. Now I've left a big mess on the table. Wait until I show you. Watch. They're everywhere. All the yarns are everywhere. All right. Now what I want you to do, this is what you've got so far. Yours will be bigger and mine will be bigger on the next row, right, on this yellow row. In fact, I'll show you mine. That's where I was up to on mine, okay? Exactly where you are now, all right? So what I want you to do is to do 1 row yellow and then another row pink. And then meet me back here and we'll talk about what we're going to do next, all right? So finish this yellow off, do the row of pink, and I'll meet you back once you're done. Alrighty guys, what I asked you to do was to do your pink row, your yellow row, and then your pink row, which is exactly what you've done here, or what I've done here. Now I pop my stitch marker in my thread and I'll explain that to you. Oh, I'll do it right now. I pop a stitch marker here so that when I walk away and someone comes and picks up my work, it doesn't come undone. All right, there's a little bit of a tip. I put that tip, you know, occasionally in my videos, and I thought I'd remind you again today. So if you are joining us new, there's a bit of a tip. Okay, so you walk away and you go to the dinner and you come back and think, oh, I've lost 7 stitches, right? But this way you won't lose them, all right? So let's finish off this pink row for a minute and then we'll talk maths. Oh, we can take that out now. Hello. So we're finishing off that pink row, like so. Yarn over your hook. In your last stitch there, you're going to do a double crochet. Don't finish it. So you just start it, hold it there. Oh, I'll take the stitch marker out. And grab your light blue again. All right, I think you can see what's coming, but we'll talk anyway in a minute. So grab your light blue, pull that through. Just hold those tails if you like. Chain 1, turn your work, single in your first, or the same stitch that you are in, and single on top of that single. Pop in your stitch marker and get ready for some big instructions, okay? And I'm also going to pop a stitch marker in this loop so that I don't lose it and nothing comes undone, all right? So what's the big instructions, I hear you ask? All right, before we do, I want you to grab, if you're new to crochet, if you're not new and you know what you're doing, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you're new to crochet, I want you to grab a sewing needle and I want you to sew in 2 threads with me right now, okay? What's the right side and the wrong side, I hear you ask? Well, for this case, it doesn't really matter because we're going up and down. However, that very first row that you did, which was the light blue, our chains were over there and we came across this way and we turned here and we did double crochets this way. This way. Oh, let me bring that out a bit more. That would mean that that is the right side of your work ordinarily, okay? So in this case, it doesn't really matter because we go up and down, up and down, up and down. It doesn't matter. but I would like to keep it in sync. So this is the right side of our work that we're looking at now. Let me bring that out. Yeah. Now we want to turn it and we want to weave our ends in on this side. All right. So let's just grab, I don't know, we'll start with pink just for fun. It's light. We can see what we're doing. And then we'll do a yellow right next to it. So thread your needle like so. I've got the wrong needle for this too, but it doesn't matter. I think in every tutorial I bring out the wrong needle. Don't you love it? So there's your pink. Yeah. And what you want to do is, it ended up down there, okay? So really what you want to do, even though that's the wrong side of your work, just grab this needle and pop it in through to the right side, pushing it through to the wrong side. You could split the thread, you can put it behind the thread, whatever, just pull it through to the wrong side of your work, yeah? Now you're working on the wrong side, you're going to literally split some yarn and pop it up towards your yellow, yeah? You're going to grab that stitch under, or sorry, your needle under the stitch, or you can go through there, whatever, doesn't matter, around the stitch and then through the yellow stitch, yeah? And I'm splitting yarn as I go, okay? Before you pull it through, check the front that you can't see your needle, all right? Pull that through like so. Give it a good tug. And there's your pink. Pull through. I might go through a little bit more because, well, you know, I'm a bit of a stickler like that. To the newbies, you'll learn that about me. I don't like doing ends, but when I do them, I really do them well. All right, check the front. Make sure you can't see your needle. Nope. And pull that through. All right, that is ample in length. But what we want to do now, let's get all this out of the way so you can see. We want to go back the other way because that eventually will come undone. So what you do is you split a little bit in a different section and then you go through it one last time. Instead, this not going all the way this time, just going like 3/4 of the way. And again, checking that you can't see your needle from this side. Yes, beautiful. Pull that through, nice and tight and thick now. And I need to get my thread through. Don't you love it? There it is. Pull your work through like so. And you're going to go back one more time the other way, except maybe not so much this time. Just, you know, a little bit under there. Just a little bit. Because once you go through it 3 times, that's not coming undone. Check your work. It's perfect. Pull that loop through, gorgeous. Grab your scissors, give your work a cut. All right, and that's what you do with that one. I'm not going to show you this because you can do the rest yourself now. You do the same with the next one. You pull it up, pull it through to your next section, and you pull it through there, backward and forward, backward and forward. I don't know what I say, 3 times, all right? So just keep doing that with every row. I know, you know, this thing about threads and weaving in threads, but you know what? It's perfect. You can't see anything from the front. See how gorgeous that is? All right. So don't forget, you need to weave in all these ends as you go. Okay. Or we can weave them all in at the end. It doesn't matter. Why am I telling you all this when we're not even 1/4 of the way through? Because you have done the pattern. Blue set, pink set. Blue set, pink set. Blue set, pink set. And you're going to do those sets, which is now, we're starting from the blue. So you're going to do a blue set now, 1, pink set 2, blue 3, pink 4, and blue 5. So you need to do 5 more sets, just like that, ending with a blue set. All right. It should be, if you had to calculate each row, it should be 21 rows up. All right. That's a rough amount. I calculated that it should be 20 rows with the measurements. The basic measurements should adds up to be about 20 rows, but it doesn't add up with our situation here with our little pattern. So we're going to do 21 rows. So that's it, guys. Head off on your own. Do 5 more sets exactly like these 2 sets. And I'll meet you back here and we will talk about what's going to happen next. Don't forget to weave in your ends as you go, and I'll meet you back here once you've done your 5 sets. Good luck, guys. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of the row. I hope you've weaved in all of your ends, yes? Yes, on both sides. Alright, so finishing off. Let's finish off. Alright, oh yes, we are guys, we're finishing off, yay. Oh, by the way, you should have all together, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets all together. Okay, so we're at the end of this final row. Get excited, guys. We're going to do our normal close off as we would any other row. Between 2, no carrying and no going up to the next row. We're just going to pull the loop through, take off that stitch marker, grab a chain through, or pull up your loop, whatever you want to call it. Giving it a cut, making sure everything's correct before you do this part, giving it a cut, just pulling it down like so, and you're going to weave that end in a minute. But first, let's just show you exactly what we've done. Okay, that's what you've done so far. All right, now I've got a little stitch marker here and I'll explain that in a minute, but that is what you have so far. One full cowl. All right, so from here, what I want you to do is weave in that end in a minute, but before you do, I would like for you to pop on a button. Now you can use any button of your choice. I'm going to use like a little cream button here. Normally I would pop a button and I would use any one of our colours to do a bit of contrast look. But this particular button, being as plain as it is, it's like a cream button, I'd like to stick with some cream thread. Now you don't need to use that. You can use any button you like, any thread you like, it doesn't matter. All right, so I just pulled a little bit off. It's way too much. Tell you what, literally that's all you would need. A hand, 2 hands full, that's it. But I always give too much. I'm a little bit of an exaggerator in that area when it comes to using yarn. But you know what? I'd rather that than not have enough in the middle of a project. All right. Better to have more than less. You can always play with extra thread. You can use it to weave in something or sew up some seam somewhere. And it's an easy thing to do rather than having to pull it all undone and adding more. All right, now I popped a stitch marker there. It's not necessary where you put your button, okay? Just make sure that your button will fit. Oh, by the way, this is a 1-inch button. Now, I think the 1 inch is actually really quite too big for it. So if you could get see, I'm going to fight to get this button in. I'm not worried too much because once it's on, you can probably just slip this over your head and not have to worry about taking it undone anymore. But maybe one that's a tiny little bit smaller will be just as good. And you're going through any one of your stitches. It doesn't matter. It's double crochet, yeah? All right, so we're going to pop our button wherever we want. Your best bid is to put your button kind of like, give yourself a little tiny bit, maybe I'll just call it a little pinky bit there, on the top and on the side, so that it's not overlapping, yeah? So maybe literally, I don't know, 1 centimetre off each side, yeah, if that helps, or even 2 double crochets this way and 1 double crochet down. I hope that helps, all right? So I'll be popping my button on 1, 2, 3, the 4th double crochet on one side, and then any one of the holes on this side will go through the button. And that's the idea with this kind of a project. We do it to suit an extra large, and then we just move it over because it's kind of project that you can wear big and bulky. You can wear it. It's specifically made to keep you warm, or warmer during, oh, that's not what we're going to use to sew in, or warmer during the cold months. Now, here's our needle right here. I'm looking everywhere for it, and it's, you know where it was? My jumper. Through my jumper, as you do. All right, I'm so naughty. All right, so here we go. Let's get started. I've got my stitch marker on my 4th stitch. Again, it's not necessary. You can put your button anywhere. Now, the needle goes through the back of your work. Now, remember, this is the right side of your work because the last stitch, the last row I should say, should actually turn out to be the right side. If you're not sure, have a look at your stitches from here, but it should turn out to be the right side. All right, so what we're going to do is go 1, 2, 3, and 4. On that 4th stitch, you're going to pop your sewing needle in, let's get it close up where I put it, inside the stitch, somewhere in between the stitch. Don't put it in the gap, yeah? Put it in between the stitch of the stitch. I'm trying to find, there we go, of the stitch you are working on. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4th stitch for me. And it's 1 row down. Okay, we'll bring it out a little bit. Pop that needle through, like so. Now don't pull it all the way through. Okay, my thread is really too long. You don't need to pull it all the way through. Leave a nice tail so that you can tie the knot later and weave that in, yeah? Now, normally I would go through and then come back around again. I'm not going to do that. It's a bit bulky, this thread. So I'm just going to pop it in the button. Yes, one way. And then through the top of the button the other way. And so your button is ready to come down. And now you grab your needle in the same stitch. You split that stitch and maybe even go through a little bit of the light blue on the bottom if you like. If you're worried about your button coming undone, you can do that. It's a big button, so it's okay. So when you pull that through, this button should straighten up like that. Now, if you've got a button with 4 holes, you need to go through all 4 holes. But I've got a 2-hole button, so all I'm doing is trying to find where that top hole is. Oh, that didn't work. Go through the top hole and go through the top hole of your button once again. Now I'm finding this button really, really tight. So I think only 2 strands, going through 2 strands are going to do the trick today. Okay, and now we're going to go through that part again. And I'm finding the button moving a little bit, so I'm going to go through it and pop it through there. I am making rather a mess. Don't be as messy as me, guys. Here we go. All right, there you go. We're in. Now this, again, this thread is relatively thick. It might have paid to use an 8-ply or a DK weight when sewing through buttons. A lighter weight thread would be good, but I wanted to keep it in sync with the same yarn we are using. Okay, this is exactly the same yarn, just a different color, obviously. So what you do, once you've gone through as many times as you like, you grab the back and you tie it in a knot. I'm leaving the needle down because I don't want to take the needle out because we're going to use it to weave in a minute. So you just tie it in a knot once, tie it in a knot twice. A lot of people just cut it here. I don't, because the risk is it will, you know, can come undone. It will, and it can, it will, it probably will. And I just find some stitches. Going to be a bit hard to do this. I've done this before with other Aran weights, so, and plus this needle's way too big, way too thick I should say, but the thread didn't fit in my thinner needles. And all I did was went through some of the stitches behind the button. Don't go over here and do it here because it will be noticeable, yeah? So I'm just going through behind the button, being the fact that it's white or cream in this case, it will be noticeable, yeah? So I'm going through once, finding another section anywhere else the second time, and I'm going to leave it at 2. I'm going to cut that piece, but I want you to do the same with the other side. So there's the other bit, see that other piece, oops, see that other piece there? We're going to weave that in as well. All right, simply divine. Okay, I know that's my word, isn't it? Simply, well, my words I should say. Simply divine. I say that all the time with most of my projects. Fine, I say it with all of my projects. What? I know, I can't help it. Anything crochet related is simply divine. Twice is good. I'm done. I don't know if I did it twice or once, but there you go. I think I did it once. It doesn't matter. All right. So there you go. That's one button done. Okay, don't forget you need to weave in this end. Oh, let's do it now quickly. It'll take us 2 seconds. This is a super thick needle though. I don't know how I'm going to do this. My thinner needle, I got rid of it before because it was too thin, and now this thick needle's too thick. I can't win. All right, so there's your last thread. This is the front of our work. We're going to pass it through to the back. I find with this, it's better to lift up a little stitch at the back and just gently pull that through. And your knot kind of sits to the side at the back so you don't see it, all right? And then you can find some stitches to split, yeah, split that way, and split some more stitches there. And then you're going to go under that stitch, I think is a good way. Yep. And then from there, you're going to weave your needle with your yarn like we did before with all your other threads. Now you can go across here if you like. I find it a little tricky here, so I'm going to go in there, making sure you can't see the needle from the front, and you can't, which is very good, okay? Then you've gone one way, guess what? You're going to go back the other way, splitting a different section, different yarn, or whatever you want to do. Again, it's your version of it. You don't need to copy exactly what I'm doing. These are just my way of doing things. If you have your own way, then by all means use that way. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. Weaving in ends is always tricky, I'll tell you. It's always tricky. I can see the needle right there, see that? Once you see the needle, it means you can actually see the needle from the front. You'll be able to see the thread from the front, and you don't want that to happen. Now, seeing it at the back, it doesn't matter. It's not that noticeable. See, there we go, no needle. All right, there you go. That's the third time. We're not weaving in anymore. Oh my gosh, we've done with everything. Haven't we just? Now, let me fight to get this button through one of these stitches. It doesn't matter which one. It doesn't matter. Which one shall we do? Well, I know what. We've done 4 there. Let's do 4 this way. How's that? Or even 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 is good. Let's do 3. Oh gosh, I hope it works. This button is really big. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's a big button. If you've got a smaller button, use that. But once it's on, I literally just pop this over my head anyway. So there you go. And at least you know that button is never going to come undone. And there you have it, guys. Thank you so much to the lovely Gina Henderson for helping us decide on a colour combination for our gorgeous cowl using the basic double crochet stitch. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Mary and this is Crochet Designs. Ciao for now.